Everything working? Cool, cool. Okay, if everything has gone according to plan, we should be live on YouTube. Hello everyone and welcome back to Weekends with Avrona. It's been a very long time since the last episode. I know, the last one was sometime in May, before even Computex, but then Computex happened and other stuff got in the way, and then it was actually so hot the last couple of weeks here in the UK that it was actually impossible to do any kind of recording because it would have just meant me boiling to death, especially on all of these lights and whatnot. If you can probably hear the fan going in the back, and yeah, this tiny little fan obviously isn't going to do much when it's like 30 degrees outside, and obviously here in Europe we don't have AC, so it took a while, but we're finally back with another episode. And by the way, if you hear some more noise apart from just the fan, some more noise outside, yeah, sorry about that, but like someone down the street is having a party. I tried telling them to be quiet, you know, just sending a very small hint by throwing bricks through the windows, but sadly they didn't seem to take the hint, and they ran the windows for me to smash, so we just have to deal with it. But we just want to basically cover all of the news that has gone down in the last couple of weeks that I missed out on, because quite a bit has happened. Some of the stuff I've already talked about, like for example yesterday's video about Intel, but I kind of feel like a 2-minute video isn't enough to really summarize all my thoughts about the dumpster fire that is the current generation of Intel CPUs. The last generation was it didn't light any fires. It was just came and went. I can't remember the last time I saw anyone even talk about them. Everyone's just buying AMD. They're the top sellers for months on end now. And Intel really not following up with another interesting generation, because the next Intel Arrow Lake refresh, so what we weren't sure if it's going to be just some new CPUs or Intel Core 300, it appears just to be Core 200 still, but with like some different numbers at the end. All it is just going to be some higher clock speeds. So basically it's going to be dead on arrival unless they can get some really big performance uplifts out of it, which, given how it's on the same architecture pretty much with just like a year of improvements, I highly doubt it. They were planning on doing some more stuff with it. So first off, they were supposed to have a brand new NPU, but that was scrapped, which, to be fair, no one would really care about that. No one would have really cared about that kind of feature. No one would buy one of these for a brand new NPU, but it would have at least been something. There's also another thing that the plan could do with it, and that is, I covered this in a video a long time ago, a 40-core flagship CPU. However, it was not like some Threadripper AGDT kind of platform. No. It was 8 performance and 32 efficiency. Who on earth would need that kind of chip? I have no idea, but they were plans on doing it and the plans fell through, so we're not getting this like 40 core CPU that isn't even technically HEDT. That would have been fun. So anyway, what we are getting is just slight performance uplifts in the form of clock boost, and that is literally it. It seems to be kind of confirmed at this point, and it would kind of match the timeline of things we've been seeing from Intel. And man, I can't feel I have to feel sad for Intel, because it has been such a mess. It feels like Pat Gelsinger didn't even have a chance to really do much. Obviously he's been CEO for about like what, 2 years in the tech space. That is barely any time, because the stuff that are Pat's initiatives would probably just be coming into effect now in a couple of years' time. Most of the stuff that Pat was working on was stuff that his predecessors would have started, because everything just takes so long in tech. All of these products, all of these launches take so long. You can't just spin up a brand new CPU line or spin up a brand new vertical for your company. So all of the things that Pat has been working on, sure, he probably started some of his new stuff, but that's going to be stuff that his successor is going to take credit for, and the stuff that Pat was stuck with is stuff that the predecessor mostly initiated. That's kind of how it works with tech. So it is kind of sad he didn't get a big chance, especially because out of the 3 CEOs of Jensen, Pat, and Lisa, I spoke about this before, especially when it comes to presentation wise, how they were talking about products, the kind of passion behind the products, I definitely preferred Pat the most. When I listened to all three of those at keynotes at places like Computex or CS, I very much liked the way Pat was presenting the most. I think he had the best kind of presence. He had the most passion behind what he was saying. There were kind of forced moments of funny, but not really, kind of like NVIDIA. And then AMD's presentations are awful, but I could do a whole video about why their presentations are so bad nowadays. But I feel like he definitely didn't have a proper chance, and the investors were just seeing the stock price completely plummet under his lead, so decide what they have to do is, instead of giving him more time, replace him with someone else. So we'll see exactly how that goes, but the good thing is Intel still do have a couple of things down in a timeline that could turn things around. First off, Nova Lake is still looking pretty cool. You are going to have to get a brand new motherboard, as it says right here. You're going to need an LGA 1954 board. So yeah, that is 1.5 generations, I think you can say, on LGA 1851. That is, I think, a brand new record for Intel. If anyone knows of a less fondly remembered socket than LGA 1851, please let me know, because I think it's going to go down as just the worst one. And I see it from the fact that no one is investing in it as well. No people are buying it. Companies that are usually the kind of the kingmakers, the motherboard manufacturers, you can usually see who they favor by who they release all the special products for. And from what I've seen again at CES and Computex, and from all the launches, no one is doing anything special. They're doing the bare minimum with Intel, and all of the special treatment is going towards AMD boards, all of the new features, all of the flagship MSI godlike kind of stuff, and all of the kind of biggest and brightest and newest stuff is being tested on AMD first, which is just a complete reversal of the way it used to be. Even just 2-3 years ago, Intel always had priority when it comes to that kind of stuff, but pretty much since like Ryzen, it began with Ryzen 3000, but then going into Ryzen 5000, it really kind of kicked off. Can you comment on the 9800 X3D and ASRock AM5 Kingdom? Yeah, I believe they fixed it. From what I remember, they did do a patch for that. I feel like that it's been an issue that's been, I don't want to say overblown. It was a real thing. However, I've seen so many people in the comments of my videos about ASRock motherboards saying, "Oh, don't buy one of these because it's gonna fry your X3D chip," or whatever. It was an issue. It was an issue. However, like with most things, I think people have gone a bit over the top about how serious it is. And like I said, I believe from what I remember, they already issued a BIOS patch that should have solved that. So yeah, especially given how ASRock makes some killer motherboards this generation. That was probably a bad choice of words, given the subject matter. We're going to talk about killing CPUs. They make some amazing motherboards this generation. Like, I talked so much about how great a lot of them are. And hopefully, now that I have a contact at ASRock from Computex, some of them will be coming, more of them will be coming into review, hopefully. So that should be fine. But yeah, I really like what ASRock are doing with the motherboards this generation, minus the whole, you know, them killing CPUs, but it can happen to anyone. I'm pretty sure Asus had like that happened to them a while back. So yeah, and they issued a BIOS patch from what I recall. Still, that's probably like the worst thing to happen in AMD. So far, like AMD this generation has been really stable, kind of really boring because there's like no competition. Ryzen 9000 wasn't, again, the most exciting, but still plenty more exciting than what Intel has been doing, who not only have released CPUs that, you know, sure, they may be a bit better in efficiency, but they don't offer anything performance-wise. They removed hyper-threading, which was like one of the big things for Intel for a while. They pioneered that ages ago. And now, like, this thing that was the selling feature for Intel CPUs for a while now, before AMD caught up, and that was a defining feature that Intel made, now they're getting rid of it. And by the way, they're also getting rid of another Intel feature that people kind of like, and that is the fact that you have both performance and efficiency cores in the CPUs, which makes sense. Makes sense for laptops, even makes sense for desktops, because you can have stuff that is just less important run on its efficiency cores. You don't need to have all cores be created equal, and they are apparently getting rid of that as well. Even though, again, it makes perfect sense. Which, I don't know, maybe they do have some kind of reasons, maybe they have some plans that we cannot comprehend yet. Some things where hyper-threading and having efficiency and performance cores, having these kind of little big architecture, are interfering. Maybe they have some big things coming up. We don't know yet if that's the case. That's the thing that's kind of scary. Mr. Massachusetts asks another question. I just built a 9800X3D and 5090, I assume he meant RTX. A 5090 GTX would be an interesting card. I know in 2 years everything will change and I'll feel like I have old hardware. How do I keep up with this or make peace in life? Make peace. But also I feel we are at a stage where hardware probably won't be aging as much because of, one, constant improvements to DLSS, frame gen, upscaling, meaning that older hardware can stay a bit more relevant for a longer time. We're also reaching a state where there's hardware will always get better. However, also the stage where I can't imagine games getting a lot more demanding. Okay, I'm scared of saying anything because someone's going to clip this in like 2 or 3 years time and show me exactly how wrong I was. Things do grow and scale over time, and that 5090 is probably going to last you for a while. I mean, hey, I rode my 1080 Ti since like what, I want to say 2018, 2019, all the way until like what, 2024? I want to say it was last year I finally upgraded from my 1080 Ti. I can't remember, but yeah, we are at a kind of stage where it is kind of weird. But I just say make peace, and hey, clearly if you can buy yourself a PC with 9800X3D and 5090, it looks like you have the money to to upgrade. I'm not making too many judgments, but it sounds like you're set. Jim G says, at Micro Center they have specials on Intel combos. I asked a sales rep about that, and he said most are building with AMD. Yeah, that's also the case. Which also means that you can get some pretty crazy deals on Intel CPUs because no one is buying them, so they're trying to move stock. At the same time, especially with LG 1851 being what it is, I think a lot of people will be just offloading used 1851 boards very quickly after Nova Lake comes out, so you can probably get some pretty good deals. I think the used Intel market is probably pretty exciting right now. The new Intel market, not that much, unless you're talking about like some really good deals on new older chips. But I think especially the used market for Intel, I think is a really good right now from what I've been seeing. I have a 9700X, I'm not really a gamer, so no X3D chip, and my 3060 Ti seems to be rocking along just fine. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even on my PC, an X3D wouldn't make sense, because it also depends on the resolution. If you're playing on anything above 1080p, you definitely get diminishing returns from having free V-cache, and especially in my case at 4K, it would make literally no difference because the GPU is literally the only bottleneck. So an X3D chip would make absolutely no sense in that regard as well. But yeah, people have been just completely eating up X3D chips, not really, not always realizing that the biggest gains are if you're really just about 1080p gaming. If you're playing at 1440p, then yeah, you'll still get some use out of it, but the GPU will also matter, so don't overspend on your CPU. And then when it comes to 4K, like, don't buy. Ooh, I just knocked my mic. I am absolutely sorry for the awful audio there. And yeah, by the time you get to 4K, the X3D, the free V-cache just completely won't make a difference at all. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about Intel. Like I said, I'm still cautiously optimistic about some of the stuff coming later down the line. Nova Lake still looks like it could be pretty decent. However, like I don't know, especially you've probably seen how they're laying off a lot of the workforce as well, which is also definitely not making me optimistic about what it's going to be like for them in the near future. But I don't know, here's hoping that they'll figure it out, because especially given how they are the originals. They've been going since, like, when was Intel founded again? Uh, 1968. Right, they are the big guys. They are the original. They pioneered so much of what we take for granted now, and seeing them struggling along like that is just I can't even make fun of it because it's just kind of sad. Justin says, how many gens on a new Intel socket do you think? Given the successes that AMD's seen with AM4 and AM5, I would have imagined that Intel would have taken the hint by now, that they need more generations per CPU. And I don't know how many more years of AMD completely winning over them it will take for them to take a hint that they should have more generations per socket. And what a big selling point has always been for AM5 and AM4 before it. Are they going to continue making the same mistake? I honestly can't tell you. I hope not. I hope that we'll finally see at least 3. That is going to be a huge thing if they have at least 3 generations on this brand new socket. It's still not going to be like AMD's, what was it in the end, 4? Yeah, Ryzen 1000, 2000, 3000, and then 5000, and then 7000 was AM5. So yeah, they had 4 gens. So I'd say just 3 generations would be a fantastic improvement. The 1.5 we're getting now with 1851 is an absolute joke and a slap in the face to everyone. Granted. On the other hand, I know I make a big point of that, but how many people also upgrade regularly enough that they would, by the time that they upgrade, a new motherboard is probably ready, a new chipset is probably already available. By the time that the performance gets so bad they need to upgrade. The fact that a CPU, or like the CPUs keep on going and going and going on the same socket really mostly helps with the fact that, it's mostly for people who want to get as much out of a single socket, right? So imagine someone bought into a Ryzen at, say, Ryzen 3000, and they bought themselves a nice Ryzen 5, like a 3600X or whatever. So they can probably keep that until a couple of years. Ryzen 7000 with AM5 is probably out at this point, and they can probably just get a used Ryzen 5000. Maybe they can treat themselves to a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9, like a 5900X or something, on the used market, and they can still stick to AM4. Most people still, on a regular pattern, would probably still only get 2 generations of chips on a single chipset, on a single socket, I mean. I feel like that's my reading of it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how many chips per socket do you think people usually buy, and how many have you historically bought per socket? Because for me, it has literally been one per socket. Right now I'm on AM5 with Ryzen 7000 when I came out. Before I was on Ryzen 3000, and then before I was on AM3 Plus with FX 83. It was an 8350 to be specific. So for me, I was literally upgrading very infrequently once per chipset. Once per socket. So I kind of want to hear what you guys think about that. And yeah, DDR6. I think it's going to be a while. I think it's going to be, one, it's going to be a while because we just got DDR5. 2, I think Intel is going to do the same thing. One of the few things that Intel have done in recent years that worked out really, really well for them is the fact that they gave people an option to either go with DDR4 or DDR5 for the, the Z690 chipsets, and that kind of the other step down step down chipsets of that generation. So that was for Intel 12 gen, if I remember correctly. The fact you could choose between DDR4 and DDR5 was genius. It was great. It worked out really, really well. And then you could build with a brand new CPU for a lot less without investing in super expensive DDR5 memory. DDR5 was so ridiculously priced when it first came out. So I think that was a big thing. And I think they'll probably do the same thing they'll try the same thing when DDR6 comes out, especially now when we're also seeing Cam 2 come out. Giving people a choice between all these various standards, I think, is going to be a huge opportunity that Intel just won't be able to not take. And likewise, it was a big disappointment that AMD didn't offer people the choice of going with either DDR4 or DDR5 when they migrated to the brand new socket. But here's hoping that they have learned that from Intel, and they will do it when DDR6 becomes a thing. Remember back in AMD? Yeah, remember back AMD in the FX days, and it was the best option. Now the tables have turned. Yep. I remember it was. Ryzen was just such a fascinating thing, especially because that was when I was really getting into tech myself. And I don't know, I would love to go back to people who built that PC and like get the rationale between why they went with the FX specifically. Like, what was the market like? And by the way, if anyone is really well versed in what the CPU market looked like exactly in like what 2012, 2013, I think 2014 max, I think, when I got a PC. Like, what is the market like that for a more budget build? It wasn't a high-end build. It was, I think, only around £800. That it made. What were no good budget Intel options? That an FX 8350 was kind of the best choice, because everyone always dunked on FX, but there's still so many people who bought them from what I'm seeing online. Still a lot of people who still have a very reminisce about it kind of positively, myself included. A lot of people just love to pick them up for the sake of having fun overclocking them. They're great overclockers, and again, it clearly made sense for at least some pre-builds to have them, unless the only reason they shipped my PC with an 8350 was because they were just offloading them because no one was buying them. That could also very much be a thing. So yeah, if anyone has any ideas why, that would actually be very, very interesting to know. Yeah, Justin says, so with one CPU per socket except two on AM4. Yeah, I think a lot of people are the same, especially given how long AM4 lasted for. And they did everything to make it last as long as it did. I mean, they were running into problems where just the BIOS itself was just too small to support all of these different CPUs. So they had issues. It wasn't easy for them to keep their compatibility going for so many generations, but they did it. And so I think many people had multiple CPUs, especially if they got in early, like Ryzen, 2000, even 1000, or even if you're on like 3000 and you kind of went from something more cheap to like all of a sudden you make more money and you can afford a nicer Ryzen 5000 CPUs in a year's time or whatever. Jim G says, I bought a B550 AMD board with a 3600, then I dropped in a 5600 later. Yeah, like that's literally kind of what I was just talking about. So I think if people usually have only one chipset, why do they keep saying chipset? One socket and one CPU, and then they upgrade both? For AM4 was probably a time when a lot more people got a really good bang for the buck when it comes to having more CPUs without having to swap out their swap out the whole motherboard. It's not like AMD has been fantastic when it comes to the Threadripper side of things. They have completely broken the promises there's multiple times when it comes to how long the sockets are going to last. But that's a completely separate topic. A topic we can get into right now, because have you guys been seeing what the brand new Ryzen 9 Threadrippers have been capable of? Holy 173,452 points in Cinebench R23. That is the magic of the brand new 96 core 9995WX. And by the way, that is a super awkward name to say. How does anyone have any suggestions in chat? Like, what's the best way to say a name of a CPU like that has 3 nines in a row? Like 999, like 9995WX, 9995WX. 9995WX. I'm trying to see like what's the most natural way of saying that. I actually don't know yet. It's gonna take some getting used to. But yeah, this thing is actually so awesome. It costs like $11,000, as you can expect from a 96 score system. But just the fact, I recently went back and rewatched some like videos from the late 2010s. Of just like old like tech content. I know some talking about Intel Xeon, and they're like, "Whoa, you are able to get 64 cores on 2 CPUs on a single motherboard, and now you have more than that on a single chip." It is actually mind blowing to me. Threadrippers are chips I always wanted to play around with because they seem so fun, but they're just so expensive, and I know I wouldn't be probably able to justify it, especially given how much of the stuff I'm doing now gets more and more GPU bound rather than CPU bound. Even for stuff like video exporting, that is almost completely just a GPU. And even then, my 16 cores on the my 17950X are doing more than fine. I couldn't even really think of too much to justify them other than the fact that they're just cool. And then, of course, the motherboards are massive. So E80X, they're going to need a bigger case. And I kind of don't want to get rid of my fractal pop air, and the thing itself would barely fit on my desk. And yeah, basically they're really fun. I hope to play around with them one day, but man, are they expensive and kind of impractical unless you are doing something that is really just about that doesn't run on or doesn't see any GPU acceleration yet. There's still definitely a lot of stuff like that, but again, we are moving into the era of so much depending on the GPU, and it's kind of still interesting to see that they are pushing that many cores. Obviously for data centers, that's going to mean a lot, but these aren't data center chips. These are HEDT for really demanding use cases at home, in an office, in a workspace. Again, there's still plenty of use cases. I'm not saying there aren't, but they have very much been decreasing slowly in favor of GPU accelerated stuff. No, 5WX, just so you don't spend all your money. Yeah, I mean, I don't think too many people will be buying these anyway, but for the few that will be, let's be honest, the people who do the kind of work that requires that kind of CPU, they probably won't even feel it. They probably won't even feel that 11K or however much it is leaving the bank account. So that's the thing. But yeah, these things absolutely awesome. Like coming out in a few days' time. Here's the whole product stack if you're interested. If you don't want to go all the way to 96 scores, you can get stuff that's less. You can even go down to like 12 scores, and like at that point, you may as well. Okay. I wouldn't say you may as well get just a regular Ryzen. There are still benefits if you go for one of the ones where you can get a regular Ryzen with the same amount of cores, like with the 9945WX here or the 9955WX here. You get way more lanes, like 8 chance of memory, like much better support for just huge amounts of memory. There are still very much advantages to it. They're just so cool. They're just so incredibly cool. So here's hoping one day I'll be able to experience them in all their glory. And that of course isn't the only thing that I want to talk about when it comes to AMD, because we are also starting to get some more rumors when it comes to Zen 6. So what is most likely going to be the big competitor to Nova Lake from the side of Intel. Again, we don't know too much about when these will be launching, how or who will be launching first. We know that the Arrow Lake refresh will be most likely launching in the second half of this year, which we're already in the second half of this year because time is crazy like that. I kind of didn't even think about it. Like, yeah, it's July. We've passed the peak. What are we doing with our lives? Anyway, so yeah, later this year, that's when Arrow Lake refresh is coming out. So probably Computex time we'll get an announcement next year for Nova Lake. and probably Computex time will get an announcement for Zen 6. It's not like AMD have to rush things. It's not like they have competition. I want to see something. Let's quickly, okay, I was about to, like, go to the Steam hardware survey, but I remember they don't track CPU by brand. They just track by number of cores, so that doesn't really tell us anything. Oh well, but yeah. They have absolutely no competition. Even if you look at the sales stats that some of the retailers have been showing off about like what CPUs are selling, it is mostly just AMD. You don't even have to look at some of the retailers. I'm just seeing them myself from my from all of my info on Amazon Associates and Newegg, that most of you guys are just buying AMD and AMD motherboards right now rather than Intel. But anyway, when it comes to Zen 6, they are targeting 7 gigahertz clock speeds, which again, absolutely awesome. These things will be super fast, but again, it kind of makes me wonder how much further they will take it, and long term, what the situation is going to be like when it comes to the launch of new CPUs, when as resolutions increase, as the amount of GPU compute and AI GPU and AI GPU acceleration increases. CPUs are becoming less and less important to the overall performance of the system. How much further are they going to take it in the long term? And what the CPU market is going to look like in the long term. I think it's going to be very interesting to see like how they're going to start adapting when, you know, when it's just so, performance is just so good, so high, that you can get easily 240 FPS, maybe even 500 FPS in like some esports titles at 1440p. So those people don't have to just be still stuck playing on a caveman resolution like 1080p. Because obviously the biggest selling point for these CPUs still remains just 1080p gaming. And of course, if you're doing something else that isn't gaming, any kind of other workloads that are still CPU bound, that you need a faster CPU for, and more CPU cores, but you don't want to go for HEDT, you don't want to go for Threadripper, that also makes sense, right? I myself have a 7950X, like, which was like AMD's flagship at the one point. I completely didn't need that for gaming. There were no performance uplifts in gaming for that compared to my 3700X, because 4K is just that GPU bound. But when it comes to some workloads that still kind of needed CPU speeds to be high, it did very much make a difference. Those extra cores do sometimes make a difference depending on what it is, and plus of course it just makes multitasking also a lot easier. But again, I'm just kind of curious what the whole CPU cycle of new launches is going to be like, and when 1440p does finally take over and 1080p is only going to be like reserved for people who refuse to game on anything below like 1000 hertz displays. It's going to be a very interesting time. It's going to be a very, very interesting time, and it's something again we're already seeing. But this is just what we know about Zen 6 so far. Basically, it's going to be 7 gigahertz. It's going to go on the N4 node, I believe. Yeah, it says even right here. Actually, no. Is it N4? That's what I read. No, it is on N4. It is going down to N2 from TSMC. So it is going to be really, really interesting generation. Again, they have that going for them, that they have no rush when it comes to these CPUs. They can take all the time because they have no competition from Intel. So it's going to be a weird time for both AMD and Intel. And speaking of Intel, really need to hurry up and get some more graphics cards out. Like Battle Mage was such a big success, but now the momentum has once again died. There have been some rumors. I have been seeing some rumors have been already circulating for a while about some more Battle Mage SKUs coming, but they really need to give it a momentum. Same for AMD. Please release something new. We had the 9060 XT back at Computex. Now we're getting into July. We should, going to August, we should hopefully be seeing like at least 1 or 2 more from them. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, guys, about what this next generation of CPUs is going to be like. Are you excited? Are you even excited, or is it just like a case of it doesn't even matter anymore? Well, unlike you just don't think both sides will be disappointing, or are you just gonna think that AMD is gonna win by default? Let me know. Actually, let me know in the comments. I don't know what else to say, because it feels like I've been gone for so long, right? We haven't done a Weekends with Runner in so long that a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about is now also old news. Like, I want to talk about a bit more about, for example, the brand new Samsung phones, but they've been out for like, okay, no, they're not out, but the actually Galaxy Impact event happened like 2 weeks ago now, I think. So I managed to do a live stream of that out of Poland. And so much stuff that we saw at Computex that I even didn't have time to make a video about is also just old news, because Computex happened all the way back in May. And again, the last show was before Computex in May, so it was a while. But I think it's still a good length show. There wasn't too much other exciting news. I just wanted to kind of give some more of my thoughts about some of the topics I've been discussing recently. There hasn't also been some like super big bombshell or anything. And again, I'm really hoping to also go back and really have a lot of variety when it comes to this show. Some weeks it's going to just be news, some weeks we could have like a guest, like when we had Ian Cutters over. And by the way, if you guys have any other kind of guest suggestions, people you really want to see on the show, do let me know in the live chat, or then in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. And again, just other random stuff as well. One live stream I really liked was when we did the Weekends of Runner for the end of Wii U support. Okay, not like Wii U support, like I think it was just the eShop shutting down, and we did that Wii U retrospective live stream, just played some Wii U games. That was great, that was fun. Or when I did that one where I was just putting together that Wooting keyboard, that was nice, relaxing, I can't speak. I didn't prepare a drink for this. We've been going for how long? I didn't prepare a drink and my throat is actually going out. But yeah, that Wooting one was also awesome, just making a keyboard. I don't know how exciting it was for you guys just watching me put together a keyboard, but that was really, yeah, it was just, again, a slightly different stream. And this series, Weekends with Runners, just about keeping things as varied as possible. There are also quite a few interesting unboxings coming soon and other reviews. Like, so much stuff has been coming in since Computex, and a lot more is on its way. I really need to cover. You probably, I don't know if you saw my short on these. These are only releasing in September, but I already got my sample review unit. These are like literally the best earbuds I've ever tried, like when it comes to sound quality. They are actually amazing. Obviously they cost like $200 something, but whatever. What else do we have come in? Oh, we had this thing called a Trevid watch. Kind of looks like an Apple Watch, and it basically is, but cheaper. It's gonna be a pretty interesting unboxing. Oh yeah, at Computex, I actually got this from XPG or ADATA. ADATA. I actually don't know what's like the official pronunciation, but yeah, we actually gave this an award back at CES because of how good the audio quality is for a gaming headset, and they like really appreciated the fact we gave them that award at CES so much. At Computex, I actually got this, which was absolutely just a great gesture from them. And then what else do we have? The Height Y40 over there, the Pure Base 501 DX like LX from Be Quiet. Yeah, there's so many projects I need to catch up with, and there's also another one from Razer coming soon that's still under embargo, but it's another thing they showed off when they invited me to the Razer store back a couple of weeks ago. Jim G, have you heard about the Nvidia 5000 Super I've seen it. I've seen the leaks, the rumors about the Super Series. It is about the time. They finished the stack. Like, the product stack is finished. They released it 50/50. So unless we get an RT 5030, which I highly doubt, but maybe, we are getting at a point where it's something that's actually feasible. Even just a couple of generations ago, I would have said, like, yeah, it would have made no sense for an RTX card to go all the way down to like a 30 SKU. But now I think we're at a point where we could very much see a 50-30. So we could see that actually come out. So it looks like that product stack is complete. We could be seeing... we could very much be seeing supercards coming out relatively soon, given how it's about a time in a generation. And then RTX 60 series probably later, like late 2026, maybe early 2027 if I had to guess. Let me just check one thing. Justin Rage has new Viper. No, it is not. It is not a new Viper. It is something else again. I'm not allowed to say. Just lips zipped. But it is not a new Viper. It's something really, really cool though. All I'll say is that I don't think they would make two big mouse releases so close to each other. But given how we just had a brand new Death Adder that I did a review unboxing of on the channel. Okay, it was more of an unboxing. And it's one of those things which I kind of really struggled to do a video on. Because there was so much stuff that I felt that only really mattered if you are just an insane esports pro that can sense the slight differences in the senses. Some of the stuff you don't have to be an esports pro to notice. Like for example the fact how the buttons are kind of spread out so they're not next to each other. That's something that would actually come in like really helpful on some mice. And then there's the stuff like the brand new optical switches and like the improved reliability of the scroll wheels. Things that are actually quantifiable and are actually something that many people could take some advantage of. So I kind of felt like I didn't have too much to say. And I kind of felt like I would be kind of wasting, I'm not wasting the viewer's time, but like I wouldn't be able to give a proper full opinion because I'm kind of a layman in that regard. Like I'm just a hard stuck emerald in Siege, and that's about as much as I care about being good at esports. And my G502X has been serving me really well for that. But then I saw something that really validated me, I feel. Something that made me feel that, okay, maybe it's not just me. And that is this right here from Hardware Canucks. Who basically just summed up my feelings really, really well. Saying this is what happens when mostly meaningless spec battles get in the way of making the best possible gaming peripherals. And yeah, they just summed it up as minimal real-world improvements, more tech, more expensive, because that thing is ridiculously expensive. So the fact that Hardware Canucks share my opinions, and it made me feel like I'm not crazy. It made me feel like I am just not the person to talk about this mouse because I can't appreciate the specs. That is like one or two people who really care about the specs, and I'm just not one of them. But no, and on the one hand, the people who are like that, the people who are crazy enough to notice the difference, they deserve products. Like, I shouldn't go out there and talk about how this product that wasn't meant for me isn't meant for me. They are allowed to make their own products, and given how some esports pros are already using them in tournaments, winning tournaments with them or whatever, they clearly work. There's clearly something good about them. And if I wanted a product that does everything I needed to do, then there's definitely cheaper Razer mice, or mice from other people. At the same time, there is stuff that, you know, I really like about the mouse that at a lower price you probably just wouldn't be able to get, like the ergonomics. It is so nice to hold. It's a bit too light for me. I prefer my mice to be a bit heavier, but just the shape of it is really nice. So again, I don't want to be too critical because it is just clearly not for me, and I don't want to get in the way of for people who really actually want that mouse and need that mice. However, the amount of people who would see real world benefits from that is probably a few hundred max, maybe less, and then after that they are kind of selling almost snake oil to people, saying how this is gonna give you real life improvements in how you game. That's kind of my take on all of this. But yeah, something else is coming from Razer as well that I kind of really like, and like you'll see that when that comes out. But anyway, that is about it for this week's Avrona. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we could be getting these a bit more frequently now, at least for the next couple of weeks, and I'm gone again. I'll be away in Poland, and it's gonna be very, very busy time. So yeah, that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this live stream. If you did, make sure to subscribe, like, whatever, and I see you all in whatever I make next. So goodbye everyone, goodbye.